Good morning, America. This is Travis Wayne Goodsell, and this morning's video, I thought I'd share a personal experience on why President Russell M. Nelson's temple changes are very dangerous to the family unit. Mormons, you're not getting it. You guys have families. You know it's a danger. Remember, do what is right, let the consequences follow, and now if you do what is wrong, consequences are also going to follow. You have to do what is right. So how do you structure the family? You know, we have a world where people are throwing all sorts of different family units out there, and all are trying to claim dominance as a position, to be left alone to do what they want to do with a family, and they're not wanting to accept the consequences from their structured family system. And so let's talk about it, shall we? Now, when I first got married, it was to a girl at Rick's, met at Rick's, and she was Canadian, so she took me to Canada. Free kids, free healthcare, great system. The Republican Party is really not understanding how great such a system is. All of their boogeyman tactics to scare you away from free healthcare, or at least free healthcare for the poor, just doesn't hold water at all. Because Canada has excellent doctors, and it's incredible. Of course, McGrath is a top hospital in the world, with Dr. Dahl, and I'm not sure if he's still around. You know, he was fairly young, so he could be, but anyway. Okay, so who is to rule the family unit? If you put it like that, then nobody. Nobody should rule the family. Because when you say the word rule, you think of people with a man with whips and beating people, and it ain't some sexual fantasy thing. It's for torture and torment. And obviously you don't want that kind of structure. That does horrible damage to little children's minds, as well as to the abuser spouse, the abused spouse. And so you don't want an authoritarian running the family. And so yes, there has been a problem in the church, and in other churches as well throughout history, where men are the authoritarians, and where it's their way or you get beaten, murdered, and divorced from the family unit, or ostracized. In the case of kids, disowned, for example. You can't have that kind of family unit. It just does damage. So, yes, the church, the LDS church, through President Benson, tried to soften the wording, but didn't really do much to help men with the authoritarian nature. He used the word preside over the family. And yes, that is the correct terminology of rule, is to preside. And you're supposed to do it in righteousness, as section 121 of the Doctrine and Covenants says. But the question is, what then is righteousness? Because as a result of the civil rights movement in the United States, women wanted a domineering position and role, not just in society, but also in the family. And Mormon feminists, which seems weird to have Mormon feminists, it's sort of like a counter-revolutionary movement within the church. But again, as I've been trying to warn people on my website and in other videos, you can't remove authoritarianism with a new rising authoritarianism. So in politics, if you think that Republicans are authoritarianism, you don't counter them by putting in authoritarian Democrats. It's counterproductive and damaging to the country, or to wherever the government is established in that manner. So you don't want women to be the authoritarian abusers of the family. That doesn't do any good either. Women can't wear the pants in the family, as it said, if the woman is going to be a dictator and wanting her will established as she whips her husband. And that's what it's often referred to when the woman takes over, is that other men tease that man for being whipped by the ball and chain. And there's a reason for that joke, and women get upset and furious that they are accused of being authoritarians, when in reality they really are, and they need to stop. They can't do that. And so, yeah, even though people talk about rings on, it's supposed to be on this hand, but that, oh, I'm now his slave. No, you're not his slave. We need to get rid of these concepts. We need to have instruction on how to run a family. And that is really the only purpose for a man and a woman getting together. If a man and a woman don't want to have a family, then they don't really need marriage. There's no purpose in it, even though the IRS makes it possible to have it economically beneficial to get married in certain circumstances. You know, fine, whatever. But you don't really need to be married if all you want to do is just be with each other and not want to have a family at all. So you don't need to have that kind of stress on you if you don't want kids. But for those of you who want kids, then you need to know how to take care of kids. And the first lesson you will learn with kids is that they want to be like you guys, the parents. Women want to be like their mother. Little girls recognize almost instantly that they are female, their mother is female. The girls want to be like their mother. Little boys immediately recognize they are boys and that their father is also male, and they want to be like their father. That's just ingrained in infants. And that is not something that is culturally controlled. We don't teach kids to be who they are. They automatically know who they are. Hold on a minute, let me pause. Okay, so I hope people understand that. Nobody is born gay or lesbian. As much as people think that that is the case, there is no gene that indicates that a person who has male or female genitalia is in reality the other sex. I'm sorry. As much as you guys want to be treated equally in society for being who you want to be, you can't use the argument that it's genetic. And so please understand, it's a cultural upbringing, either with abusive parents or abusive peers or other economic conditioning, whatever. Please understand that. It's just, it's sad that people body shame themselves. Nobody should be body shaming themselves. And we can't blame the people who body shame themselves. We need to stop the abusers that cause people to think that they need to body shame themselves. So we need to stop abuse. And that's why the family unit is crucial for establishing the emotional well-being of a child for the rest of their life. And having a father and a mother helps establish that. And unfortunately, because of the world we live in that is escalating in horrific conditions, we don't have many examples of an ideal family unit. And that's unfortunate, because it's not perpetuating, it's escalating the problem because of the poor conditions. And so generation after generation gets worse and worse because we've started on this path of destruction. Okay, so the ideal family unit is one where, yes, I'm sorry, women, the men are the leaders. This isn't a situation where the man is the authoritarian. You shouldn't be afraid of your husband being an authoritarian. If he becomes an authoritarian, the family unit is collapsed instantly, and it's doomed. So men need to realize they can't be authoritarians, and women need to realize they shouldn't have to fear their husband of being an authoritarian, because that's not the ideal family unit. But there has to be only one leader. You can't have two leaders. Remember, in the New Testament, you can't have two masters. Either you will love the one or hate the other, and love the one, etc. Because that's what I saw in my children. I had an authoritarian wife. At first, she was the submissive one, as she perceived herself. And then she got into a social circle of husband attackers, women who bashed their husbands. That's all they do. They'd get together and gossip about how horrible their husbands were. And I tried to get my first wife, Stephanie, to hang out more with another woman who was married, because I saw in her a better example to follow. She did not associate with those peers. She remained separate from them because she recognized their abusive tendencies. And so I wanted Stephanie to hang out with her rather than with the peers. And so I couldn't order her, "You will not see them." You know, I can't do that. But, you know, I said, "Hey, why don't you spend more time with Mrs. Penny?" I can't remember her first name. But she didn't want to. She liked being with the peers who were bolstering her up as somebody special and important and needing to take authority over the family. She fell for that trap, and she took full advantage of it. She just went wild and crazy as an authoritarian leader in our family. And even though I was able to confound her with her arguments that she needed to be an authoritarian dominant person over the family, she wasn't going to abuse me any more than she already was. I wasn't going to let her put me into captivity. And so yeah, she in the end realized that she had to leave because I wasn't going to leave her and make her the martyr. So it's all on her. And during the time of her abusive behavior, I was going to school. So I was able to stay away from her. You know, that's what men do when you're abusive, women. They stay away from you. They stay late at work. They go to the bar after work. They do whatever to avoid coming home, because they know once they get home, you're going to go off on them. And men don't want that. They don't want to come home to an abusive wife. And so, yeah, it was the same situation. I didn't want to go home to an abusive wife, but, you know, I still had to go home. But I had school to go to. And I was also in the LDS Institute program. So I was taking classes at Institute also, because that was part of my degree, was biblical studies. So yes, Institute, even though it wasn't as effective as a teaching method as the regular schooling at the University of Lethbridge, I was still picking things up through my own understanding, rather than what the church was imposing upon people to learn from their manuals. And so that was the career course I was pursuing. And so when Stephanie found out that I was taking Institute, she was furious and demanded that I stop and come home immediately after school to take care of the kids while she got all dressed up and didn't come home till after midnight. Got later as she realized I was staying up waiting for her to return, because I was concerned. But yeah, bad situation. And so the kids, how did the kids handle all this? Well, when I'd come home from school, the kids would rush the door and cling to me with all their might. You know, they were terrified of their mother. She was abusive to them. You know, she neglected them and was very mean to them. Hold on, gotta pause again. Okay, so yeah, I saw it in the kids, and I was concerned because I'm wondering, why are my children rushing to cling to my legs? What's going on here at home? And Stephanie would always angrily respond, "They love you." Okay, but there's something wrong. What's going on at home? You know, the kids are too young to explain and tell me, and it's with their mother there who will beat them when I go away again. They don't want to tell me. We already had this situation with Melissa when she had done something. I can't remember what it was, but Stephanie wanted me to join in as we discuss what Melissa did wrong. And it was a cute experience, because, you know, remember Cinderella, when Cinderella can't go to the ball because she has all these chores that were added upon her, and so Cinderella rushes out onto the back balcony or back patio, and on the little chair bench thing, she goes and, it was so cute of Melissa. But yeah, we tried to talk to her, and she did that stunt just exactly as she had seen it in Cinderella. And I immediately recognized it and pointed it out to Stephanie, and she went, "Oh, okay." But yeah, children are very smart. They know how to identify with what they watch on those Disney cartoons. Those are great teaching tools. but you got to make sure you give them the right Disney tools to watch and learn from, or you need to be there with them, teaching them as the movie goes on. So, yeah, I mean, my grandmother, before she died, saw The Little Mermaid, and she was all upset about The Little Mermaid, how a daughter would be so rebellious against her father. And so, yeah, she did not like the teaching of that movie. But yeah, you can't have an abusive father. All right, so my kids were able to stick together. It was the two of them, because they were uncertain as to who to follow in the family. And Melissa, being the oldest child, became the master over Clayton because he was younger. And Melissa took it upon herself to be the leader of the kids. And Clayton one day didn't want to do what Melissa wanted him to do with her, and he was refusing. And so Melissa brought Clayton to us as parents, and was all upset that Clayton wasn't doing what she wanted him to do. And yes, Stephanie did the right thing in that case and said, you know, it's okay if Clayton wants to do something different. He can do that, and then you can do something different. It's okay. You know, so that was a good teaching moment. But when you have a situation where one parent rules over another, that has a direct effect on the children because they learn from that. They catch on very well. They can see that mommy is an abusive person and is the ruler in the family. And kids learn, okay, yeah, well, we're sort of stuck in this rebellion. That's the way I was with my mom. My mom was an abusive authoritarian, and so I rebelled because of it. I recognized that my dad, even though he also was an abusive person, he wasn't around, and so he had no control in the family. You know, he comes home, he expects dinner to be made for him, and he goes to bed and then wakes up early in the morning to go back to work. And so if there's a problem that mom brings up to him about us kids, you know, he doesn't want to deal with it, and so he gets mad and yells at us and orders us to comply with mom. And so that's not good family relations either. And so how does a family structure work in an ideal environment? Well, first you have to look at the bigger picture. And in religion, there's this thing called God, and you can't have two masters. So yes, you can't put your head of the household, whether it's the man or the woman, above God. And so who is this God, this higher power? Because children can't see God, and that's why it's important to have a family structured unit to be a teaching method for when the kids get older and can understand the concept of a deity. And at that point, when they understand deity, then you can lead them to follow deity, because you've had the ideal family unit where the father is teaching after the example of the deity. And so that's the ideal family situation. And is having kids learn the structure. The mother is great with nursing. Men can't nurse. And even though we have two breasts, we can't produce milk. And only women can do that. And so, yes, the child immediately bonds with the mother because of the mother's ability to feed the child. And children are very well aware of who's taking care of them, and thus who loves them. But with the father, there is a role model situation for the kids there. Even though women, infant girls, want to be like their mother, they need the good example of a father to know who to choose as a mate when they get older and become like their mother. Because if they have a bad father example, it's gonna go bad when the girl gets old enough and is looking for a mate. And same with the guy. If he's got bad parental examples, he's going to pursue the wrong example when he gets older. And thus the escalation in society that leads to destruction. And so in a family situation, we need to understand that we can't treat people as subhuman or discriminate against their rights to life, liberty, and property. But we need to understand that for children to grow up in ideal as possible conditions, you have to eliminate the alternative families that cause confusion. If you have two men who decide to adopt a baby, because obviously neither of them can produce a baby in their womb, even though the tabloids talk about the man who gives birth to a baby, and they have one lizard baby and the other is a normal human baby because of some alien encounter. It's not possible. We all know that. And in two women, yes, in vitro fertilization can occur rather than adoption. But again, the children have no male role model in that circumstance. And so they don't see men as anything. And they grow up not considering men as equal with women. And likewise in a male-male parental condition, women, are not considered essential, and that's just not true. But that's what kids learn, because they learn very easily from the conditions they're placed in. And so, yeah, there is a fear of the homophobics that if a gay or lesbian couple raises kids, that the kids are not going to be raised right. But such homophobes are also in abusive conditions, and that's not right either. So please understand that. And so, yeah, the scriptural passage of you can't serve two masters is a very good one. And so in a family unit, you can't have equal partners. It just doesn't work. the kids can't have a mother and a father, or father and father, or mother and mother, who are equal. It just doesn't work, because the kids don't know who to go to, because the parents are separate. They're not always going to be there together to make the unified decision for the kids. You'll have conditions where there's only one parent, and when that one parent is all by themselves without the other parent for counsel and advice and decision making, the kids will pick up on that. And when another situation comes up where both parents are together, or the other parent is there, the kids will say, well, the other daddy said that we could do this. And then all of a sudden, this other parent is now in a precarious position, because the other parent had made a decision for the kids without their involvement. And that's just how it happens in a family unit. That's why there has to be only one leader for the kids to know and recognize, so that when daddy is away out working, in an ideal family situation, the mother needs to say, this is the rules that daddy has set for us. And if the kids recognize that it's not mommy's orders, that it's actually daddy's orders, the kids can understand that. But it's got to be good, righteous orders. You can't be authoritarian with the whip. Now, this is the time where you guys have to do the laundry all by yourself. But we don't know how to do it. We can't reach. You can't have situations like that. And so, yes, the mother is an important position because of her need to know how to cook, to clean, and to read, and to be a nurse, and to be a firefighter, to be a dispute arbitrator. All of these different job qualities that a woman needs to have, and to be able to teach them to the children. Now, as a teaching role, that does not make you an authoritarian or a presiding person, because that's a different situation. The instruction for the kids, teaching the kids how to learn to be adults, it requires great intelligence of the woman. If in an ideal situation the woman was able to stay at home and take care of her kids. If you have to give your kids to a daycare, a babysitter, or a school, then the kids end up learning that their parents really have no presiding authority over them. And that causes all sorts of problems also, because the babysitter or the daycare worker becomes the leader over the kids, because the kids recognize, oh, my parents can't do their job, and this person is now the one that I have to obey. And yeah, kids pick up on that, people. We need an ideal situation in our society to repair the damage that's already been done. So is that all that I need to talk about? Because we're at 35 minutes already. So yeah, that's the ideal family structure, where the man and the woman love each other, and the kids see that love, but the kids understand that the one leader is the father, because he's the metaphoric symbol of Heavenly Father in the Mormon family. Because if you have the mother then all of a sudden the kids get raised up not really trusting or relying in a heavenly father, because they didn't have a good fatherly example. And so then you get kids who, I want my mother in heaven. Why can't I pray to her? And again, you get into problems doctrinally with Mormons as a result of this. So that's the importance of the family unit. So to have Nelson have women become independent from their husbands is going to cause damage, and it's already been damaged by abusive fathers and women having bad parental role models, less than ideal conditions in the family. But to perpetuate that as a leader of the church is inexcusable. And so, yeah, that's very dangerous. Women, yes, they need to covenant to God, but they can't eliminate their husband as the presider in the home. And women have been pushing for that. They're wanting equal status with the husband. And I'm sorry, women, you just can't have it. But the husband isn't supposed to be abusive towards you. And I don't think people are getting it. Because women are not wanting equality, they're wanting dominance. That's how it's turning out. And equality can't happen with children, because you have a two-master situation, and children can't serve two masters. Because when mommy's all by herself, kids will take advantage of the situation. Daddy lets us do this, or yeah, anyway. So yeah, that's what I saw in my kids before they were taken away from me. And now my kids hate their father because of the bad role model of their mother. They don't recognize the abuse of their mother anymore because their father is out of the picture. And so the mother was able to exert her will upon the kids for all those decades. And now my kids hate me. They blame me for being out of the picture. They blame me for having a mother who abused them. And I saw it in the letters that were short-lived of my youngest daughter, who never knew me at all. I could tell that she was not happy with the authoritarian nature of her mother, and she may have also been trying to pit me against her mother, so that I would then go to her rescue against her mother and condemn her mother, and that, yeah. So that's why you can't have two masters. So I hope you guys understand that. It's not a situation that you can have whatever family unit you want and everything will turn out fine. It doesn't. Because we have a society that's on the verge of collapse. Whether you recognize it or not, whether you believe it or not, there are consequences. And you have to do the right thing in order to produce the right consequences. And for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. If you're a scientist and you don't believe in God, believe in that. And so in behavioral relationships, it's that same thing. For every action that we cause, that we enact on another human being, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And it may vary as to how it's done because of other person's influence with other people. Like I brought out in the other video, we have a fight, flight, compromise, or comply, or freeze, or go into a state of shock. Those 4 different types of human responses are what we experience, and it's a result of our continued interactions with people over time since our infancy. So if you don't believe in religion and the concept of godly consequences, believe in the concept of the physical law of there is an action for every action, a reaction for every action. So, okay, so I hope you guys understand we need an ideal family unit structure. We can't change the ideal family unit structure. And the whole reason for that is so that we teach children to become independent, not dependent on their parents. And independence is a situation where we have individuals growing up to learn to trust their inspiration, which religion calls revelation from God. And all it is our mind's ability to get ideas, get inspiration, to create and develop new technologies, new ways of doing things. And the animal kingdom does not have that capacity that men do. Mankind is only capable, they're the only animal capable of inspiration. Animals all react on a survival basis. They don't get inspiration to create a new design for a dam, you know, for beavers. They don't get new inspiration. Oh, hey, let's do this structure. No, they don't do that. They know that they need to cause the water to stop, so they build a dam, and thus breeding is capable and all that. But that's not inspiration. That's survival. That's a survival mechanism. And so even animals they're able to communicate, but they don't have the ability to get inspiration, to create. Love, that also is a survival response. And so dogs are very loyal to humans if the humans are taking care of the well-being of the animal. Or the dog recognizes, hey, my master has a baby in the house, I need to protect that baby because my master is good to me and takes care of me. Or the dog has been trained by others to take care of this family. It's all survival. It's not inspiration. So I hope people understand the difference between humans and animals in that sense. And that's why it's important to teach children that they too have the ability to receive inspiration. And religions say that it's revelation from God, whatever, fine. But you need to teach the children that, to go to the source in them, that they need to develop that, and that they need good role models so that this does not get corrupted, that they need good role models to provide them with a good source of inspiration rather than a negative source of inspiration due to a survival mechanism as an animal. Alright, so there's probably more that I need to simplify in this to make it understandable better for you. But hopefully you understand why I am so concerned with what Nelson is doing, because there will be consequences. Mormons get upset with me when it's Nelson who's in the leadership position. And you guys are all looking to him for everything to do. You're not being told to go to your own self. That's what concerns me. When the leaders say you must obey us, that's concerning, because they're supposed to be telling you to look to Jesus, look to God. So I hope you understand.